My name is Sienna Blake, and I wasn't supposed to be at that wedding. I was supposed to be working a corporate event in Miami. I was supposed to be out of town, out of the picture, out of his way. But instead, I stood at the back of a luxury seaside ballroom, watching my husband, Marcus Hale, walk down the aisle, toward another woman. He had planned every detail, the secret venue, the guest list, the seating chart without my name. What he didn't plan for was me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I just smiled, because I wasn't the forgotten wife. I was the surprise guest he never expected, and I didn't come alone. I brought my best friend. I brought my lawyer, and I brought the truth. This is the story of how I turned the wedding of his dreams into the downfall he never saw coming. They say betrayal whispers before it ever dares to shout, but sometimes it arrives in a gilded envelope. The day had started like every other, normal, predictable, the way I liked it. I brewed my morning coffee, fed the cat, and flipped through my emails. Marcus had already left for work, claiming an early client meeting downtown. "It's quarter close season," he always said. "High stakes. Can't be late." That was the rhythm of our mornings for the past year. Always work. Always urgent. I never questioned it. Until that day. At exactly 9:14 a.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it expecting a neighbor. Instead, a courier stood on my front step, leather satchel slung across his chest. "Delivery for Sienna Blake," he said. My pulse ticked up. Sienna Blake. No one used my maiden name anymore. Not since the wedding. Not since I became Mrs. Hale. I almost dismissed it as a marketing error. But the envelope he handed me, it wasn't the flimsy kind stuffed with coupons or charity invites. It was heavy, cream-colored, embossed in gold foil, the kind of stationery reserved for gala dinners or prestigious weddings. Curious, I slid my thumb under the seal. The Hale Vaughn Wedding Committee, an RSVP, a date, a venue. I skimmed, expecting some mistake, some marketing gimmick. Instead, the words burned into my brain. "Together with their families, Tessa Vaughn and Marcus Hale request the pleasure of your company at their wedding celebration." I froze, my breath halted. Marcus Hale, my husband, the same man I'd kissed goodbye that morning. The RSVP card was already filled out. My name was printed neatly, confirmed. I reread the invitation 3 times. My brain tried to fill in rational explanations, a mix-up, a prank, a coincidence. But there was no mistaking it. The date was 2 days away. The venue, Seaside Pavilion, the same venue Marcus and I had once dreamed of using for our 10-year vow renewal. And there, in gold script, my name sat, not as the bride, as a guest, a ghost among strangers, an afterthought in his new life. The first wave of denial hit hard. This has to be a mistake. A different Marcus Hale. A printing error. I even pulled up Google, searching for another Marcus Hale in the city. Nothing. Then came the flood of memories. The late-night meetings. The business trips. The passwords changed for security reasons. The distant glances. The quiet withdrawals from our joint account. All the red flags I had painted green in my head. I didn't notice Chloe enter the kitchen until her hand closed around my wrist. "Sienna, what's wrong?" I couldn't speak. Instead, I handed her the invitation. Her lawyer's eyes scanned the document. Her breath caught. This can't be real." "It is." Her jaw clenched. She flipped the RSVP card. "He put your name down." "Yes." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Sienna, this isn't just infidelity. This is fraud. Bigamy." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. By noon, Chloe had gathered Maya and Ethan at my kitchen table. The 4 of us had weathered storms before, but nothing like this. Chloe spread out the invitation, the RSVP card, and a printout of Marcus's recent bank transfers. Small, steady withdrawals leading to an account neither of us had opened together. Ethan spoke first. "He's planning to erase you. Quietly, legally, financially, emotionally." Maya added, "And he was going to do it before you could even react." Chloe's eyes burned with fury. But now you have the one thing he never expected. I blinked. What? A head start? That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I stared at our wedding photo on the mantel. The man in the tuxedo smiling beside me wasn't a stranger. But he wasn't the man walking toward another altar either. He had underestimated me, and in 2 days, I would prove it. That night, sleep was not even a distant possibility. I lay awake in the same bed Marcus and I had shared for nearly 7 years. His side of the bed had grown cold long before that invitation arrived, and now I knew why. I kept the lamp on. The room felt darker with it off. My phone glowed beside me, silent. No texts, no calls. Marcus hadn't checked in. Why would he? He thought he was in the clear. He thought he was getting away with it. At 2:04 a.m., I slipped out of bed and into the home office. I powered up my laptop and began a folder. Hail deception. Evidence. Inside, I dragged scans of the wedding invitation, the RSVP card, screenshots of recent bank transactions Chloe had pulled, photos of our marriage license and joint property deeds. Then I opened a blank document. I titled it, Timeline of Betrayal. I started typing. 6 months ago, Marcus's frequent client dinners began. 4 months ago, first unusual bank transfer. 3 months ago, changed all shared passwords. 2 months ago, new credit cards appeared. Today, wedding invitation delivered by courier. The list was longer than I wanted it to be, and much older than I had feared. By 7:00 a.m., Chloe returned. She had never gone home. Instead, she had spent the night digging through public records. She entered with 2 coffees and a look I recognized, the look of a woman ready for battle. "You were right not to confront him yesterday," she said. "I found something." She tossed a printed document onto my desk. Vaughn Strategic Holdings, business registration. Vaughn, Tessa Vaughn, the same woman marrying my husband. The document showed an influx of $500,000 into her company from an account linked to Marcus. "He's not just moving on," Chloe said. "He's financing their future with marital assets. That's criminal." I exhaled slowly. "So this isn't just a betrayal." She shook her head. "It's theft, fraud, intent to commit bigamy, and that's just what we know so far." An hour later, Maya and Ethan arrived. Ethan carried his tablet. Maya had a stack of manila folders. Neither looked like they had slept. "We've been working all night," Ethan announced. "And I have bad news and worse news." "Which first?" I asked. "The bad," Ethan replied. "They've set up a press embargo. The Vaughn family is planning a public announcement about the marriage, Monday morning." "Before the ceremony?" Chloe asked. "Exactly at the time of the ceremony," Ethan confirmed. "They're turning the wedding into a PR stunt, a merger of 2 power families." Maya added softly, "They're planning to erase you completely, Sienna. No divorce, no settlement. Just poof. You never existed." I swallowed hard. "And the worst news?" I asked. Ethan tapped his tablet. "I searched social media tags linked to the venue. Seaside Pavilion. Guess who confirmed the florist, the caterer, and even the photographer?" My stomach clenched. "Tessa?" "No, Marcus." Ethan showed me the contract images. All signed by him, using joint funds. Chloe straightened. "This changes everything." Maya frowned. "How?" "Because now we don't just have deception or emotional betrayal. We have proof that Marcus used shared marital funds to finance another wedding. That's not just immoral. That's prosecutable." Ethan smiled grimly. "And more importantly, it's undeniable. Even in the court of public opinion." I stared at the evidence spread across the table. My life, my marriage, reduced to a paper trail. I had always thought betrayal would feel loud, explosive, shouting, tears. But this was quiet, cold, precise. Marcus had not made mistakes. He had made choices. "I can't confront him directly," I said finally. "If I do, he'll twist the narrative, paint me as unhinged, vindictive, try to make me out as the bitter wife clinging to a dead marriage." Chloe nodded, agreed. So, what do I do? Maya answered first. You get ahead of the story. Ethan added, you control the narrative before he can. And Chloe delivered the final piece. You walk into that wedding, not as the abandoned wife, but as the woman holding all the power. I looked at my friends, my team. You mean, crash it? Chloe smiled. No, not crash. Attend. You RSVP'd, remember? She held up the card, confirmed. At that moment, the numbness in my chest cracked. Not from sadness, from purpose. He thought he could erase me, I whispered. But I'm going to rewrite the ending. By noon, the apartment felt like a war room. Chloe had already laid out a binder. Tabs, evidence, legal strategies. Maya and Ethan spread out their laptops, phones buzzing every few minutes. The invitation, the mistake that ruined Marcus's plan, sat in the center of the table like a trophy. Phase 1, Chloe announced, clicking a pen. Freeze the assets. She pushed forward 2 forms. These will stop him from draining the joint accounts further, and they'll alert the courts to the fraud. I nodded. He'll notice. Good, Chloe replied. Let him sweat. Maya chimed in. Phase 2, public narrative. Ethan rotated his tablet so I could see. Social media searches, wedding vendor posts, guest list leaks. He's already shaping the story. Vaughn family press releases are ready. They're calling it The Union of Two Dynasties. They're burying your name, fast. Not anymore, I said. Ethan smiled. I've drafted a statement for when the time comes. Clear, factual, no emotion. He read aloud. As of date, I remain legally married to Marcus Hale. Any attempt to enter into another marriage is invalid and fraudulent. All legal remedies are being pursued. Simple, devastating. Phase 3, Chloe continued. Your appearance. Maya leaned in. We won't confront him before the ceremony. That's what he'd expect. He's probably already rehearsed a defense. We were separated. She's unstable. I tried to tell her. I felt my stomach tighten. That's exactly what he'll say. Chloe nodded. Which is why you'll say nothing. Until the right moment. We spent the next 2 hours finalizing the logistics. Chloe would attend as my legal representative. Vanessa Chu, her co-counsel, would join her with the summons. 2 process servers, hired and disguised as catering staff, would carry the court documents. Ethan and Maya would attend as support, positioned near key guests and exits. And me? I asked. You, Chloe said. Will walk in calmly, confidently, not as a scorned wife, as the only lawful wife. I took a breath. It still felt surreal. 2 days ago, I was planning floral centerpieces for other people's weddings. Now I was planning the takedown of my own. At 4:00 p.m., Maya returned from a quiet meeting with a venue insider, one of the catering supervisors. He confirmed, she reported. Marcus paid every deposit using the joint account, and she pulled out her phone. A florist's assistant overheard Tessa saying, "Don't worry, she won't even know until it's too late." My blood ran cold. Chloe whispered, "She knew." Maya added, "At least partly, enough to not ask questions." I stood. The numbness had burned away. "He thinks he's in control," I said. "He thinks he's orchestrating every detail." Ethan looked up. "He was." I shook my head. "Not anymore." That night, we rehearsed everything, where I'd sit, where the servers would stand, when Chloe and Vanessa would signal, when to move, when to speak, or more importantly, when not to. "This isn't a scene," Chloe reminded me. "It's a statement." As the sun set, I opened my laptop one last time. I created a final document. Marcus Hale, the truth. Inside, I compiled photos, financial records, email threads, witness statements, Chloe's legal filings, Ethan's media plan. Then I wrote the first line. The wedding he planned was supposed to erase me. The wedding we planned will expose him. By midnight, everything was ready. Chloe smiled grimly. Ethan's phrase sums it up best. What phrase? Ethan looked at me. He planned the perfect day. He paused. And now, so have we. The seaside pavilion stood like a monument to lies. Ivory drapes, crystal chandeliers, rows of silk-covered chairs facing an altar wrapped in roses and gold, the kind of wedding they'd write about in magazines, or scandal columns. I arrived early, not as a guest, as the reckoning. Maya and Ethan entered first, blending in perfectly. Their roles, observers. Quiet, ready. Chloe and Vanessa waited outside, two process servers at their sides, dressed as catering staff. We had memorized every move. This wasn't revenge. This was exposure. As I approached the entrance, an usher smiled. "Name, miss?" I handed him the RSVP card, my maiden name, Sienna Blake, the name Marcus tried to erase, the name that would undo him. "Welcome, Ms. Blake." He waved me in. The doors parted. I stepped into the belly of the beast. The room smelled of jasmine and polished wood. Guests mingled, sipping champagne. Laughter floated between the strings of a live quartet. Whispers drifted past me. "Isn't this stunning?" Tessa really knows how to plan. Marcus looks so happy. Happy. He should be nervous. I took my seat in the back row, second from the aisle. Perfect sight line. Maya sat 3 rows ahead, Ethan beside her. We didn't exchange glances. We didn't need to. We were ready. At exactly 3 o'clock, the crowd shifted. The music softened. The officiant took his place at the altar. And then, Marcus. Tailored tuxedo. Perfect cufflinks. Polished shoes that clicked sharply against the marble. He wore the same cologne he had worn at our wedding. Ironic. He stood beneath the arch of roses, smiling like a man who thought he'd won. The guests hushed. The music swelled. Tessa appeared. White satin, diamond earrings, a cathedral veil trailing behind her like innocence itself, her arm linked with her father's, her future shining ahead of her, built on stolen foundations. The crowd rose. I stayed seated, not in protest, but in control. As Tessa walked the aisle, my pulse stayed steady. Every step she took was one closer to the collapse. Every breath Marcus took was one closer to the fall. The officiant raised his hands. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." His words blurred into white noise. I wasn't here for tradition. I was here for truth. Chloe's text arrived. "Servers ready. Vanessa in position. If anyone here objects." The officiant paused. No one moved. Not yet. "Marcus Hale, do you take?" Now. 2 servers stepped forward. Calm, quiet, professional. They reached the altar from opposite sides, envelopes in hand. Marcus frowned. "We're in the middle of—" "Sir," one said gently, "you've been served." They placed the documents into his palm. Tessa blinked in confusion. "What's happening?" Marcus flipped open the envelope. His smile vanished. The color drained from his face. Fraud, bigamy, asset concealment, all spelled out in black and white. Gasps rippled through the guests. Tessa's father stepped back sharply. The officiant froze, glancing helplessly between them. I stood. The chair scraped softly against the floor. All eyes turned. Maya, Ethan, Chloe, Vanessa. All ready. But I spoke alone. "That's what's happening, Tessa," I said calmly. "Your groom forgot to mention he already has a wife." A collective murmur swept the crowd. Phones lifted, recording. The truth, captured forever. Marcus opened his mouth. "She's lying." "No," Maya said, standing. "We have records." Ethan added, "Financial transactions, witnesses." Chloe held up the binder. "Court filings, all verified." Tessa's eyes widened. "You told me you were divorced." Marcus stammered. I was finalizing." "No," I interrupted. "You were concealing." I walked down the aisle, slow, steady, unstoppable. "You drained our accounts. You RSVP'd for me without my consent. You planned to erase me." Tessa's bouquet slipped from her fingers. White roses scattered across the floor. "You don't have to do this," Marcus hissed. "We can talk. Privately." I shook my head. "You chose public deceit. Now you'll face public accountability." Chloe nodded to Vanessa. "Police are waiting outside," Vanessa confirmed. Tessa's father turned to his daughter. "Step away from him. Now!" She hesitated, but when Marcus reached for her hand, she recoiled. "Security!" the officiant called out. 2 guards appeared. They took Marcus by the arms. "You won't get away with this," he shouted. "You'll regret it, Sienna." I smiled softly. "I already regretted trusting you. Now I'm just relieved." The crowd watched in stunned silence as he was led away. Phones flashed. Tessa sobbed quietly behind her veil. The wedding was over, but the truth had just begun. I returned to my seat, calm, poised. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I had walked into his perfect day and rewritten it. The guests were silent. The music had stopped. Even the waves crashing beyond the glass windows seemed to still. Marcus Hale stood frozen at the altar. The court documents trembled in his hands. His perfect day unraveling, thread by thread. Tessa's veil fluttered as she whispered, "Marcus, tell me this isn't true." He turned to her, desperation bleeding into his eyes. "She's lying! Sienna's trying to ruin us! She's always been unstable!" His voice cracked, not with conviction, but with fear. Tessa shook her head. "You said the divorce was final. You said she was out of the picture." Marcus stammered. I was finalizing it. The paperwork got delayed. It's all a misunderstanding." But the crowd wasn't buying it. Maya stood, firm, calm. "We have the financial records," Ethan followed. "The vendor statements, the stolen assets." Chloe lifted the binder. "And the marriage license that proves you never filed for divorce." A ripple spread through the guests. Phones raised, voices whispered. No one moved to defend him. Not his friends, not his family, not even his best man. Tessa's father's face hardened. He stepped forward. "You lied to my daughter, to me, to everyone." He turned to Tessa. "You're leaving this altar, now." Tessa hesitated. Tears pooled in her eyes. "But, Dad—" "No," her father said gently but firmly. "This man betrayed more than just his wife. He betrayed every vow he made." Chloe leaned toward me. "Ready to end this?" I nodded. I walked down the aisle, each step louder than the last. Marcus's eyes widened as I approached. "Sienna, please!" "Stop," I said. You don't get to beg. You don't get to plead. You took vows with me once, to honor, to protect, to stay true. You broke everyone." I paused at the altar, face to face, the liar and the woman he tried to erase. "You thought you'd replace me. You thought you'd humiliate me in private. You thought I'd stay silent." I smiled softly. "You were wrong," Tessa whispered. "I can't believe this." Then louder, "I believed you." Her bouquet fell, the roses scattering like broken promises. Chloe raised her phone. "I've alerted the press," she said quietly. "If Marcus tries to spin this, the truth will be ready before he can even blink." Ethan nodded. "The public narrative is secure." Maya's eyes glistened. "You did it, Sienna." The officiant spoke nervously. I can't continue this ceremony." "That's the first wise decision today," Chloe said dryly. Marcus clenched the papers in his fist. "You're destroying everything." "No," I replied. "You did that. You stole from me. You lied to me. You tried to erase me. But all you did was expose yourself." Security approached. "Mr. Hale, you need to leave." He shook his head violently. No, this isn't over." "It is," Vanessa said firmly, stepping forward. "The court documents are active, the charges filed. Your assets frozen, your reputation gone." As they reached for him, he snapped. "You think you've won, Sienna? You think this makes you powerful?" I met his gaze, cold, unwavering. "No, this doesn't make me powerful. This makes me free." He lunged forward, One last desperate move. Please, Tessa, don't listen to them. Sienna's manipulating you. But even Tessa stepped back. I don't even know who you are anymore. You never did, Ethan muttered from the crowd. The guards restrained Marcus, his tuxedo now rumpled, his perfect mask shattered. They began escorting him down the aisle, the same aisle he thought would lead to his new life. Instead, it led to the end of his deception. As he passed me, he whispered, "You'll regret this." I leaned in. No, Marcus, the only thing I regret is not seeing through you sooner. The doors closed behind him. The weight lifted, the wedding was over, but I was just getting started. I turned back to the crowd, dozens of faces watching, some shocked, some proud, all witnesses. I know many of you came here today expecting a celebration. And you still got one. A celebration of truth. A reminder that lies don't survive forever. Maya clapped softly. Ethan joined. Then more. A ripple of applause, not for the ceremony that failed, but for the justice that prevailed. Chloe squeezed my hand. You're not just the woman he betrayed anymore. You're the woman who reclaimed her story. I smiled. For the first time in months, it felt real. The ballroom remained in stunned silence. The music was off. The flowers wilted in the heat of scandal. Phones were still up, capturing every second. The wedding had collapsed, but the reckoning had just begun. Tessa stood frozen at the altar, her perfect dress now wrinkled, her hands shaking. You told me the divorce was final, she said to Marcus, or rather to the space where Marcus had stood moments before. But he was gone, escorted out like a criminal, because he was one. Her father stepped forward. Come with me, Tessa. You'll speak to our attorneys now. She nodded numbly, as if waking from a spell. Because that's what Marcus had done. He hadn't just deceived me. He'd deceived her, too. Chloe leaned in. It's over. I shook my head. Not yet. Ethan scanned the room. Phones are buzzing. The story's already hit 3 local outlets. Maya added. And social media is exploding. Hashtag Hail Vows exposed is trending. Good. Let the truth spread. The officiant gathered his papers, hands trembling. I'll inform the venue that the event is concluded. He looked at me with a mixture of sympathy and fear, as if I was both victim and storm. He was right. Security remained by the doors, not to protect Marcus, but to ensure he didn't return. Vanessa approached, phone in hand. The police are here. Financial Crimes Unit. They're moving forward based on the evidence we submitted. My breath caught. This was no longer just personal. It was criminal. Tessa's father returned, expression steely. My daughter was foolish, but your husband manipulated us all. He extended a hand. Thank you for stopping this before it went further. I shook it. Protect her. She'll need support. He nodded. And you, if you ever need anything, my family will back you. Funny. Marcus thought this man would become his father-in-law. Now he was my unexpected ally. Chloe whispered, You have choices now. We can leave. Or you can speak. I looked at the crowd, still seated, still silent. They weren't waiting for a bride and groom anymore. They were waiting for truth. I stepped onto the altar, the same place Marcus had planned to vow his forever to another woman. Now it would become the place he lost everything. I know you came here for a wedding, and I'm sorry to disappoint. Murmurs rippled. But you also came here to witness vows. And you still will. I paused, not from nerves, but from purpose. The man who stood here today vowed loyalty, honesty, love. He broke every one. But I vow something else. I vow to never let lies go unchecked. I vow to protect my name, my dignity, and my truth. And I vow to speak for myself and for anyone who has ever been silenced. A woman in the crowd wiped her eyes. A man nodded solemnly. I wasn't alone. I had never been. You may think this is a scandal, but it's not. It's a warning. A warning to anyone who thinks betrayal can be hidden. A warning to anyone who believes they can rewrite someone else's story. I scanned the room. You can try to erase a woman, but sometimes she writes herself back into the narrative. And when she does, she doesn't just reclaim her power. She redefines it. The applause was quiet at first, polite, hesitant, then louder, firm, not for the end of a wedding, but for the beginning of a reckoning. Chloe squeezed my arm. Perfect. Ethan smiled. Public opinion just swung fully to your side. Maya wiped a tear. You didn't just survive today. You won. The venue staff began clearing chairs. Guests stood, gathering their things, but many approached. Women, men, couples. I'm so sorry for what he did. You were so brave. I needed to hear that. A young woman pressed a note into my hand. It read, I almost married someone like him. Thank you for reminding me to trust my instincts. I tucked the note into my clutch. A reminder, this wasn't just about me anymore. It never had been. As we exited the ballroom, reporters gathered outside. Flashes, questions. Ms. Blake, will you press charges? Will you speak publicly? How did you uncover the truth? Chloe lifted a hand. No comments today, but I paused. Just for a moment. I didn't come here to expose anyone. I came here to protect myself. And in doing so, I protected others too. That's all I said. It was enough. The car door shut behind me. The venue faded from view. So did the weight. The house of cards Marcus built had finally fallen, but I was still standing, and stronger than ever. 3 weeks later, the headlines had shifted from shock to certainty. Real estate mogul Marcus Hale faces fraud, bigamy, and embezzlement charges. The wife who turned the tables, how Sienna Blake exposed a double life. Vaughn family withdraws from Hale partnership amid scandal fallout. Tabloids, business journals, even primetime news. But I didn't care about the noise. I cared about the truth, and the truth was undeniable now. Marcus had not just betrayed a marriage, he had betrayed the law, the public, his own future, and he'd done it with full intention. Chloe sat across from me in my now quiet home, no longer our home. She flipped through court documents. The Financial Crimes Unit found more than we expected. I nodded. I had expected that, but hearing it out loud still made my stomach clench. Asset concealment, fraudulent transfers, tax evasion, and forgery. Chloe paused. He was digging his grave long before you ever opened that invitation. I exhaled slowly. I just shined a light on it before he could bury anyone else with him. The police denied him bail. The Vaughn family froze all dealings. Tessa Vaughn publicly severed ties. Her family issued a statement. We deeply regret our prior association with Mr. Hale. We were deceived, and all personal and financial affiliations have been terminated. I didn't gloat. I understood denial better than most. Tessa had believed him too, until she couldn't anymore. The court moved quickly. My legal team, Chloe, Vanessa, and a brilliant young associate named Priya, pushed for expedited divorce proceedings. Even Marcus's new attorney didn't contest it. He can't afford to fight, Chloe said. You hold all the leverage now. I nodded. I had the leverage. But I also had something Marcus never would again. Dignity. At the final hearing, Marcus didn't even look at me. His once charming face was hollow, defeated. He pleaded no contest to all charges. The judge awarded me full control of our marital assets, restitution for fraudulent spending, damages for emotional and reputational harm, and complete legal immunity from any remaining liabilities. The gavel fell. Divorce granted. Petitioner awarded full protections and restitution. Respondent's charges will proceed to criminal court. It was over. Maya hugged me in the courthouse hallway. You didn't just survive, Sienna. You won, Ethan added. And you controlled the narrative the whole way. Chloe smiled softly. The media's already moved on. They'll chase the next scandal. But your reputation? It's intact. Stronger than ever. But victory felt quiet. Not triumphant. Not cinematic. Just steady. Unyielding. Like truth itself. Back at home, I opened a bottle of wine. Maya, Ethan, Chloe, and Priya gathered with me. not to celebrate revenge, but to mark resilience. I toasted softly, to the strength we find when we think we've lost everything, and to the peace that follows, not because the world grants it, but because we claim it. In the following weeks, I restored everything Marcus had tried to dismantle. I moved all accounts into my name, sold the car he'd insisted we needed for status, canceled all memberships, subscriptions, and social ties linked to him, and launched my first solo consulting contract. Fresh start, Maya called it. Fresh rules, I corrected. For the first time in years, my life was mine alone. No secrets, no shadows, no pretending, just clarity. I received hundreds of messages, some judgmental. You should have kept it private. Why expose him so publicly? But more were supportive. Thank you for standing up. I thought I was alone. You reminded me I'm not. One stood out. My ex did something similar. I thought I was crazy for suspecting. Thank you for reminding me I'm not. I kept that message pinned to my desk. A reminder that truth, once spoken, creates ripples. Ripples that reach others still trapped in silence. The tabloids eventually moved on. New headlines, new scandals. But some stories don't fade. They stay. They resonate. And I had chosen to be the storyteller of mine. Not Marcus, not the press, not public opinion. Me. The woman he tried to erase no longer existed. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. One evening, Chloe asked, "What would you tell another woman in your shoes?" I didn't hesitate. That betrayal doesn't end you. It reveals you. And sometimes, it liberates you. That night, I stood by the window. The city lights stretched endlessly. I wasn't looking for what was next. I was simply standing still. Finally. Fully. Free. 6 months later, the headlines were gone. The public had moved on. The courtroom drama was just another closed case in the archives. But for me, the story wasn't over. Because some stories don't end, they evolve. After the final court date, after the press stopped calling, after the last article faded into obscurity, I stood in my quiet home, my home, and I made a promise. Not to Marcus, not to the media, not to the world, to myself. I will never let silence become my story again. The invitation he never meant for me to see, that was supposed to end me, but it became my beginning. It taught me that betrayal doesn't destroy you. Silence does. It taught me that loyalty is not submission. It's a two-way promise. When one person breaks it, you owe them nothing more. I also learned that standing up, publicly, firmly, unapologetically, is not weakness. It's power. And as the weeks passed, women started reaching out. Not strangers anymore. Not just followers or headlines. Real people. I saw what you did. I thought I was alone. Your story gave me the courage to leave. One message stayed pinned to my phone. I was scared to speak up. I thought people would think I was dramatic. Your story made me feel seen. That was all the validation I ever needed. I didn't rebuild to prove anything to Marcus. I rebuilt because no one should be able to burn your life down and expect you to stay in the ashes. I launched a new consulting firm. My name, Sienna Blake, was on every contract, every project, every deal. No more shadow partnerships, no more shared accounts, no more apologies for taking up space. Built by truth, backed by resilience, owned by me. Some friends stayed, some fell away. That's what truth does. It reveals who's real and who was just comfortable with the lie. Chloe, Maya, Ethan, they never left. They became my circle, my witnesses, my reminder that real loyalty exists. Tessa never reached out again. Neither did Marcus's family, but that was fine. I wasn't waiting for closure. I had already created it. And when I walked past Seaside Pavilion, the place where the reckoning had unfolded, I didn't feel anger, or regret, or even sadness. I felt clarity. This is where I ended the version of me that stayed quiet. And this is where I found the voice he tried to bury. For anyone listening now, if you've ever doubted yourself, if you've ever felt like your instincts were paranoia, if you've ever been told you were dramatic, difficult, or emotional, trust yourself. Your intuition is not the problem. Their deception is. You don't owe your silence to anyone who profits from it. Not a partner, not a family member, not a boss, not society. I once believed that protecting someone else's reputation was loyalty. Now, I know. Protecting your own truth is the highest loyalty, and you should never apologize for it. The day Marcus thought he'd humiliate me in secret became the day I reclaimed my power. I didn't just expose him, I rebuilt from him. And that's the real story. Not the betrayal, not the scandal, not the downfall, the resilience, the rebirth, the voice that refused to be erased. Thank you for staying with me through this story, for listening, for believing, and for standing with anyone who chooses truth over comfort. Until next time, stay strong, stay seen, stay empowered,